Hey everybody, and welcome back to the second edition of Selling Internationally. We did cover Canada in a previous video, and we have other markets coming up, so stay tuned for that. But right now, we are covering Europe, and that includes a bunch of different countries. It includes the EU or European Union as well. So keep that in mind when watching this to know what we're exactly talking about. But here today, I have Ellis, who is a fantastic expert here to share some advice for all of you who want to expand internationally. Hi, Ellis.
Hi, and hi to everyone watching. My name is Ellis, and I'm a marketing specialist at Printful.
Okay, tell me a little bit about why is it even good to sell in Europe, and what are some maybe shipping limitations or fulfillment changes that they should keep in mind for European selling?
Europe is a great market to sell to with Printful because we have two fulfillment centers pretty much on the opposite sides of Europe, in Latvia and in Spain, so the shipping times for products are much shorter.
And if you want a more specific and detailed breakdown, you can check the exact shipping estimates under every product you sell. So if you go to the open product page and you scroll down a little bit, there's going to be a tab with shipping where you can insert the country specifically that you want to sell to. You can't quite look at the entire region because it's obviously different, but insert the country and it's going to give you how long you would have to wait for shipping.
Yes, but it's also important to consider which products are available to be sold in Europe because not all of our products in a catalog are available to be sold in EU. And for that, to make it more convenient, we made a specific collection called Made in EU. So you can straight away see all of the products together.
Yes, and I feel like there are some, like not that many, but some products that are limited to markets outside of Europe. So please do check availability. You can do that in the exact same way. Going to the product page, scrolling down, there's going to be an availability tab with the fulfillment centers in different markets that are fulfilling these types of products. If you decide to sell something in Europe and then it's not available to be shipped to Europe, you're going to run into problems.
So choosing which products to sell and their availability is of course important no matter where you're selling your Printful products. But what is important to note is the value added tax, which is very specific to Europe.
Yeah, because obviously the taxes very much depend on the market you're selling in. And this is my cue to tell you that we are not certified tax specialists. We are not lawyers. This is not legal advice. What is the most valuable thing you could do to understand taxes is to find somebody to consult yourself based on your specific situation. That being said, I'm sure we can cover some of the more general information. So before we get to anything, how is VAT applied? What is it, etc.?
So for VAT, you need to reach a certain sales threshold for that to be applied to you. So once you reach the threshold, then you will be asked to pay VAT for the country where that threshold is reached for all of your sales in Europe.
The sales threshold, is that the same in every country or is it different?
No, the sales threshold is definitely different for every country, and that would also affect the applicable tax.
That makes sense. There's different VAT levels in different countries and also different sales thresholds. Look up the sales thresholds and make sure that you know what is the amount that you sell that is going to make you register in different countries. But you can kind of find a lot more information in a guide that we have linked down below. It's essentially a table that will walk you through how to figure out where you have to pay VAT and how much and in which case. All right, so we've covered the basics of taxes in Europe and the EU, but what about customs?
Yeah, customs is another tricky one. So if an order is coming into the European Union and it's above 150 euros, then your customers will be charged an extra VAT plus customs duties when receiving the order.
So not just they will be charged the VAT, but they will be charged separately. So you pay VAT and then they do.
Yes, that is why we also suggest choosing products that are already fulfilled in Europe so that both you and your customer can avoid these extra charges.
Okay, that is a huge argument for choosing stuff that is available in European fulfillment centers. Okay, so we kind of, I think, mostly touched on EU things. Is there something that is different in, Europe as a whole, in countries that are not within the European Union?
Yeah, all of the countries have their own different rules and rates for taxes. And this is why, for your convenience, we have linked a guide under this video. And we do suggest to get advice from a tax specialist for you to have everything done correctly.
All of this VAT and tax talk is very related to pricing and to currencies. What are the things that people should know and people should consider?
Well, in Europe, and specifically in European Union, majority of countries use euros. So you can feel free to set your prices to euros, no matter what currency you use to pay Printful for fulfilling your products. And if you do decide to sell different country in Europe that doesn't use euros, then you can set it to the currency available in that country. But please consider what your e-commerce provider allows for the currencies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the settings can be super different depending on the platform. Okay, and what about pricing products specifically? So even in euros, you need to consider how expensive certain things should be. Is there anything that people should consider?
Yeah, most importantly, consider different living and spending habits of the countries that you choose. So of course, begin with looking at countries that could potentially become your main target segments and seeing what prices are for the products that you're selling in those countries are currently available for other brands.
So essentially what I need to look for is not just t-shirt brands that are similar to my brand, but t-shirt brands that sell in the country that I want to target.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, anything else about pricing that is important to note?
In Europe, customers expect to see the full price of the product. So for example, when comparing it to US, when customers see the price before the tax and then at the end at the checkout, they see the price plus the tax. In Europe, the customers would already expect to see the full price. And when they go to checkout, the price doesn't change for them.
I know from personal experience that people in Europe speak English pretty well, generally. Doesn't have to be every country, but quite a few do. But are there still some localization things that could be done, potentially?
Absolutely. You're correct that majority of European countries and residents understand English and there is no need to translate any of your communications. But if you want to deeper connect with the customers in a specific country, so let's use again Germany, then it would be best to localize all of your communications as well as the product descriptions that you use for your products.
Okay, but I'm sure there are some things that don't quite fly in Europe. I doubt people celebrate 4th of July there. What are the things to keep in mind?
There's no 4th of July celebrations in Europe, but there's different celebrations for each country. And you can consider that in French, there's French days, which is similar to Black Friday, and they happen twice a year in spring and autumn. So when deciding which country you would like to sell your products to, it is also important to consider different cultural aspects as well as the trends happening in that country.
I'm sure also pop culture references are very different. People do watch these huge global shows and listen to quite a bit of similar music, but there are going to be phrases and there are going to be memes, I guess, that are more popular in some countries than others.
Definitely. And that is why Europe can seem like a great opportunity and an interesting market to target. But of course, it's important to consider how diverse Europe is and the people that live here.
Yes. And with that, thank you so much for coming here and sharing all of this knowledge. And thank you for watching and sticking around. We will have a wealth of resources down in the description so that you can sell in Europe confidently. But in the meantime, happy selling.